Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is the audio version of a roundup of all things Maker and Embedded and Lovely that I make for Electromaker's YouTube channel. This week we have somewhat of a classic version of the show because I talk about a variety of things. Some of them are new products, some of them are news stories from the Embedded and Maker world, some of them are things on funding websites which are crowd supply mostly, which if you're not familiar with it is a Kickstarter but just for cool embedded maker projects. And we also have a few wonderful projects from the Electromaker Project Hub where we have a large community of people sharing the things that they are making. I just want to give a quick reminder up front that we do not run any kind of sponsorship on our podcast. We don't have any of the usual suspects supporting our podcast. We do occasionally do sponsored sections with other people, but for 99% of the time we're running this thing by ourselves, self-funding it with our own shop, which you can find at electromaker.io/shop. We sell everything from Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Adafruit, Sparkfun, Pimoroni, and also some industry names like NXP, Nordic, and many, many others. So if you are thinking of getting something for yourself, a gift for others, or need 10,000 of something for your job, consider taking a look at our shop because it will help us immensely. With all of that said, I think it is time for us to just get straight on with the show. Just before we start this week's show, I wanted to mention we started the competition for the Blues LoRaWAN starter kit last week. And if you're not familiar with what that is or what the competition is, please do go back and watch that or look for the Product of the Week video on our YouTube page where Robin talks about it at length. Blues makes some really lovely stuff. But I just wanted to mention we're not going to announce the winner until next week's show. Just because of personal life stuff, my two recording sessions are bunched quite close together. So for all of those entries to be scraped now and to be chosen, it just doesn't feel like enough time for enough people to enter the competition. I want as many of you to have the opportunity to win this wonderful gear as possible, so we'll let that contest run for another week and we'll be announcing it next time. So, on with the show. Now, what does a Stroop Waffle, an Arduino Uno, a temperature sensor, a system running OpenCV that will track movement, and a buzzer have in common? Well, it turns out kind of everything. Yes, Eamon Magd, one of our Electromaker community members, has put together a completely automated system for working out how long you should leave a Stroop Waffle on top of a cup of coffee to soften it. On a recent trip to the Netherlands, they noticed that everybody put their Stroop Waffles on their cups to let them get to the perfect consistency before eating them, and noticed a couple of things. One, the Stroop Waffle will bend slightly as the heat of the coffee heats it up, and that the time that it takes will probably be dependent on the kind of coffee that you have. This is over-engineering for the sheer joy of it, and I absolutely love it. Now, Eamon has a YouTube channel which is really wonderfully put together. The quality of this video is so very, very high. His subscriber count is quite low. So I would recommend, as well as coming to this page and looking at the project, you actually heading over to his YouTube page and making sure that you are subscribed to his channel. He's putting out real quality stuff and he deserves the subscribers. Now, how does this work? Well, he's showing in the video just here that they put the Stroop Waffle on top of the cup. How does the technology fit into that? Well, as I mentioned, we have a temperature and a humidity sensor. This is the setup from the Arduino. There's also a screen and a buzzer as well. These are just designed for user feedback for obvious reasons. But he goes way deeper than that as well, because the temperature is of course important, but the temperature of coffee will vary and how long you want the Stroop Waffle to stay on will vary. And once it actually bends too much, you don't want it to fall into the coffee. So this is where a completely normal thing, not over the top at all, a completely custom OpenCV motion tracking element comes into it that tracks the motion of the Stroop Waffle over time, and between that and the temperature itself via linear regression will give you a warning when it's the perfect time to take your Stroop Waffle off the top of the cup. I'm tripping over words because it is such a complex way of putting together something so simple, and I absolutely love it. So if you'd like to find out more about it, there's a wonderful write-up of it, including this chart, which tells you exactly the controlled tests for how long you should be putting Stroop Waffle on top of your different drinks. And of course a conclusion as well. But yes, it's a wonderful project. I love the idea behind it. It combines so many things, including embedded hardware and doing things like motion capture using OpenCV on a laptop, just using its webcam, combines those two things that talk to each other via serial and many other things as well. And you can of course find out how he did it via this write-up and the video, and even see the code that he put together by heading to the GitHub link as well. So if you would like to find out more about that, you can find a link to that in the description. And Eamon, what a wonderful piece of over-engineering. Fantastic. Well done. Up next is perhaps one of the most satisfying Lord of the Rings based prints I've seen in a while, because this is a one ring, and you can't quite get the scale from this, but it's big. This is a big one ring, and it is full of lights and LEDs, as you can see. In fact, if we skip over to this video for just a moment, you can see the volcano stand, the Mount Doom, being printed just here, and the ring being printed just underneath it as well. And then this is combined with some WS812B addressable LEDs and an ESP8266 for connecting to the web. And what you have in the end is a really quite large ring full of LEDs inside it that are completely controllable, because it has an HTML interface as well, but it also ties into Home Assistant and Node-RED. So you can have various different custom animations and things based on it. Now, I wish I could show you more of it. This is just the short video that is out of it. There's no longer version of this at this stage, but there is a good write-up of the entire process here as well. So there are some quite nice images of it too, and there isn't a huge amount more to say. The code is available on the GitHub page, and also the models are available here as well. It's just a really nice way of putting home automation notifications into your living room in a way that is pleasant, that appeals to something that you are into. I realize I've been somewhat in the way, so let me put myself out of the way, show you this image again. It's just a very nice way to put this into your living room with something that you clearly care about. I'd be really quite excited to have a large version of the ring in the living room. I'm currently in the process of reading Lord of the Rings, because I found out that Andy Serkis, who played Gollum, has read Lord of the Rings as in an audiobook form. So I'm rediscovering Lord of the Rings in a way that I haven't since I was quite young. So no wonder this project jumped out to me as something I wanted to talk about. But yes, as I mentioned, there is a web interface for setting the LED control, and that LED control is, as I previously mentioned, set up via an ESP8266 development board, something that looks a little bit like a Node MCU, you may have noticed in that video, or a WeMOS D1. It was one or the other. And of course, so you have this HTML way of doing it if you want to, or you can of course just hook it into Home Assistant and Node-RED and get it to set up everything you want that way as well. But yes, I just thought this was such a wonderful project from Christopher J.H., one of our Electromaker community members. I will leave a link to it in the description. Do go and find the project and make one of your own if you would like, and head over onto the video here and tell Christopher exactly how awesome you think this thing is, because it deserves a little bit of recognition. I think it's one of the cooler 3D printed integration of fandom and something useful that I've seen in quite some time. It is now time for Funding Website Things, which is the part of the show where we look at things on funding websites, surprisingly. This is a regular feature of the show where we occasionally look at things on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but we mostly rely on Crowdsupply. And that is because Crowdsupply is a funding website specifically for the kind of embedded hardware projects that we love here on the Electromaker Show. And there's a massive amount of things on this at any given moment. I'd love to be able to cover absolutely everything, but so far I haven't really been able to. I think I'd need to have an entire other show dedicated just to talking about the wonderful things that we see on here. But if you would like to see a whole bunch of these projects all in one go, then take a quick look in the link under this video where it says Funding Website Things Crowdsupply, because there is a whole list of things that we recorded at Crowdsupply's in-person event in Portland in Oregon just a short while ago. I sang the praises of it heavily then, and I'm going to do it again. It's one of the best in-person events I have ever been to, just full of amazing minds and hardware hackers who all brought something to the table. Some of these are things that you will be able to support on Crowdsupply going forward. Some of them are just cool projects that Crowdsupply really vibed with, and they really are trying to build a community and help people put some wonderful stuff together. So a lot of the stuff that you will see on the front page of Crowdsupply, when you head down and look through it, is you can hear the people who actually made it speak about it. So for example, the Open Interface Mini KVM here, that is right here. Yeah, we chatted about it with the creator at Portland in his own words as to exactly how we put this thing together. And there's several of these things, including Slime VR and yeah, a bunch of others, more than I could have time to really explain now. So if you'd like to find out more about that event, look in the description. But for now, there are two things that are in pre-launch that really caught my eye. The first is Genbook RK3588, a modular open source ARM laptop with up to 32 gigabytes of RAM and DIY expansion capabilities. Now, this looks like a laptop, but what it is something that I have wanted for quite a while. Since the early days of Raspberry Pis being a thing, people have tried to turn them into laptops, and this is essentially not that dissimilar from that idea, because what you have here is a laptop with a system on module inside it with the RK3588 chip on it, and so that it's essentially a single board computer inside a hull with a big battery, with a keyboard, with a full HD monitor as well. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I think full HD implies 4K, doesn't it? It's an HD monitor. It's a 1920 by 1080 monitor, and and a proper battery pack, and a lot of extra space for you to add your own stuff. They have an FPC connector on the side of their custom baseboard for this system on module board that slots into it. The system on module board has the RK35. There's so many different rock chips, I get the designations mixed up all the time. The RK3588, which I believe comes with 64 gigabytes of eMMC on that board as well. So I jumped ahead just a little bit like that, but really for many people this is sort of the dream. This is not dissimilar to the kind of stuff that Framework are doing with their laptops as well. A completely modular and upgradable laptop, but this is just moving in a slightly different direction. This is a chip that you may already have in a single board computer that you already have. I believe Rock Pi have a RK3588 single board computer out there. I can't remember which one of them it is, but this is exactly that, but in laptop form, and in a way that you could set up ports on the side of your laptop to specifically work with things like I2C, I2S, or any kind of ways of plugging in or out. You could modify the side of your case so you could plug stemmer connectors in and have modules running directly into your laptop, because this is essentially a single board computer in a laptop case. Now, this is a pre-launch project. We have no idea how much this is going to cost. The other thing I haven't noticed looking through this page is any mention of battery life, and I know that's going to be a very big thing for a lot of people. A laptop is only as useful as its battery at the end of the day. If you're going to have this thing plugged into the mains the entire time, you may as well cart around a single board computer and a screen and a keyboard. So while I find this a very compelling and exciting thing, I'm not singing its praises as such. Let's wait until we see what the price is and know a little bit more about it. But that is what I tend to do with these crowd supply projects. I come back to them later, and if you're interested in finding out more with any of them, you can just click in the subscribe thing here, and when you subscribe on any crowd supply page, you subscribe to that project. So if you're only interested in the Genbook RK3588, enter your email here and you will just hear from that manufacturer about steps along the way, like for example when this thing launches, and that is also when we will find out about the price. But yes, the page is certainly worth reading through. It has a few different speed tests for different AI modules, because the MPU in the RK3588 is set up quite nicely for Edge AI already. It talks about the fact that you can add NVMe SSDs to their board, so you can have a large storage like you would have on a normal laptop. I've already mentioned the fact that they have the FPC connector adding various things. Here, this is a 5G module, so that you can have a laptop with 5G in it that can just always connect wherever you are. Something that, again, I think many of us have wanted. And it's been possible with various different laptops. I know with Livono laptops, you can modify them so they have 5G. But this is, again, a single board computer in a laptop case. At least that is what I am taking away from it. It's something I'm quite excited about, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. Because if this is something that has a decent battery life, I have been thinking for a while that I have my nice little Apple laptop that I do all my video editing and all that kind of stuff on, and it is a very nice thing, but I would like something a little bit different, a little bit esoteric, something along the lines of a Framework laptop, but maybe even going into a slightly different area of stuff with an ARM processor instead. Which sounds very silly. I'm talking about my Apple computer, which also has an ARM processor, but it's not the same. The M1 processor is dark magic. This is light magic. Oh, Ian, you're losing your mind. Anyway, I will leave a link to this in the description of the video. Now, up next, I think, is something that anyone who has worked as a writer would really appreciate. This is essentially the idea of a modern typewriter. This has sort of been the dream for many of us for a while. At least it was certainly my dream back when I was predominantly a writer. I used to write about DIY stuff like e-paper displays and microcontrollers, and I thought, why can't someone just come out with something with a decent battery life, with an e-paper display that's just for typing and nothing more? No distractions, no emails, no YouTube, just something you can sit down and type with. Well, the Zero Writer Inc. is exactly that. The Zero Writer project, by the way, is nothing new. It's something I think we should talk about on a different show, because there's various variations of this. But this is a ESP32 based project, and the ESP32 actually comes in the form factor you may already be familiar with if you've watched the show for a while, because Inkplate, which are the wonderful series of e-paper displays with ESP32s on them from the company Soldered, have done this in collaboration with the open source project. This is essentially an Inkplate with a very nice keyboard on top of it and a battery and everything like that built into it. Now, if you'd like to find out more about it, you can head to this page, look at the video. I'm not going to say anything more about it now because we'll definitely come back to this one and talk about it at length then. It's coming soon. There's no price for it, but the one thing I wanted to mention that I find quite exciting is it is ESP32 based, it is Arduino IDE hackable. As it comes out of the box, you'll be able to type on it and you get an SD card with all of your words on it. I think the first thing I would like to do is try to hack a little way together of having your typing and doing all of your typing, but then have a certain set of escape codes that maybe you put together that it will try to attach to a known Wi-Fi module, or it will even give you a screen where you can type in the local Wi-Fi password and it will dump all of your words as they are onto a remote server, which would completely close the loop for me. Having something that I know I can just sit and type, and then as soon as there's a way of connecting to the internet or making a hotspot with my phone, just pressing a button and it goes boink off to my Obsidian Vault or off to Google Keep or off to Google Docs, whatever you use, that would be something that I would really, really love, and it would probably get me back into writing again after all these years of doubting myself as a writer. So yes, I know that was a very quick and slightly enthusiastic babble about a project that has not even been launched yet, but these things are really quite exciting to a certain type of person, and I'm definitely one of those type of people. Now, the Raspberry Pi 5 has another variant. It released with 8GB and 4GB models. There is now a 2GB model. Now, I have my 8GB model here. However, we always knew that there would be other versions of the Raspberry Pi 5, not just because they always release various different variants of it, but if I get my quality second smartphone camera going just here, you can see that there are different resistor bridge points for what kind of memory you have on the board. So we kind of always knew from day one that we're going to have 8GB, 4GB, 2GB, and 1GB variants of it. And the news here is that the 2GB variant has just been released, and it is $10 cheaper than the 4GB variant, coming in as just $50. So we'll move over this relatively quickly, as this is the Pi 5. We talked about it a little when it first came out, and my opinion on it hasn't changed. I still think this is the most exciting Raspberry Pi that they've put out in a long time. It is a bigger jump between the 4 and the 5 than the 3 and the 4, in my opinion, and I've given my reasons for that in the past. The precious little time I've had to play with the Raspberry Pi 5 has been real fun, and I know people kind of back and forth about the idea, could you use one of these as a desktop computer? But I've really considered actually having a little Raspberry Pi 5 in a box downstairs with a small monitor that I can use as a sort of permanently installed on a kitchen shelf type of computer, so that I can do a little bit of browsing. And now, we're not going to spend too much time on this because we've already talked about the Raspberry Pi 5 quite a bit when it came out. My opinion on it hasn't changed. I think this is the biggest upgrade they've had in a long time. It's a bigger upgrade from the 4 to the 5, from the 3 to the 4, in my own opinion, and I gave my reasons for that way back when. And there's a blog that came out on the blog from Eben Upton, the CEO, who, by the way, if you're new to the channel, we have an interview with Eben on the channel. If you head to our YouTube page and just search for Eben Upton, you will see the interview we gave just around the time of the Raspberry Pi Pico's release. It was a really good interview, and Eben was very generous with his time, rescheduling the interview so that I would get better audio quality, which is really amazing behavior for a CEO. It was very nice of him. This tells you pretty much everything you need to know. It's priced at $50 and it is 2GB. The rest of it is talking about the Raspberry Pi 5 in general, and the main cliff note here is saving memory, saving money. For someone like me or you, maybe you would want to push the extra $10 to get the double the amount of RAM. If you're buying 10,000 of these, that becomes a very different kind of consideration, and the money that you will be saving, of course, will be dependent on what you are building with them, but could be a significant amount. But I could leave it there. But there was a benchmark article which kind of blew my mind slightly, so we're going to look at that very quickly before moving on. So, Les Pounder, Tom's Hardware, they have a Raspberry Pi 2GB to test, and so they did some benchmarking on it. And I want you to go and read the article yourself. I always link everything in the description. The Raspberry Pi article will be linked in the description, and so will this one, because it deserves your time. But just going through this very quickly, these are different benchmarks for the 2GB, 4GB, and 8GB versions, doing various things like opening multiple browser tabs and things like that. It's not a thorough benchmark by any means, but he says this isn't meant to be a review or a thorough benchmark. It's just a little bit of testing. The amazing thing is there are moments where you really do see massive differences between them. When you open, I think it was 50 browser tabs or something, used a little bash magic to open multiple tabs in quick succession, and in the case of the Pi 2G, until the browser crashed. And it wasn't up until they got to 40 concurrent tabs in Chromium before the 2GB Pi just gave up the ghost. But before that, they found that a lot of stuff was pretty much the same. Boot up time was the same. Opening Chromium or Firefox was the same. A lot of things happened at pretty much the same time. So yes, of course you're going to be throttled by RAM. That's how computers work. You're not going to be able to use this for anything like AI or video, or as they show, emulation. It does actually do pretty well with Wind Waker, which is a pretty old game at this point, as it says 2002, 2003. So that's not much of a surprise. But again, this isn't necessarily for me or for you. Yes, it's a nice budget option, and there are people who are looking to buy a single board computer where that extra $10 is crucial. It's the money, they don't have the money to spend on it. But I think this is going to be more the case of people who are wanting to buy several thousand of these for an industrial use and are looking to make a saving because they don't necessarily need to run that many processes or things on the board at once, and so they can get away with the 2GB version. And now that we know that the 2GB version is $50, do you want to go ahead and bet that the 1GB version, when it eventually appears, is going to be $40? And $40 for a Raspberry Pi 5 is really getting down to that low price point that we were expecting from Raspberry Pi since the start. Things get more expensive over time. I have ranted enough times on this show about things actually costing what they should cost. I still think this is an absolute bargain. And just before moving on, it would be remiss of me to not remind you that the Electromaker Show does not run adverts on the show. We have had the occasional sponsored section now and again, but we sort of avoid the general YouTube grind by trying to do things pretty much our own way, and that is by having our own hardware shop where we sell things from Raspberry Pi, Arduino, Adafruit, Sparkfun, Pimoroni, Nordic Semiconductor, NXP, and many, many others. And if you are looking for a new single board computer like a Raspberry Pi or a variety of others, we have a single board computer section on the shop. You can head to the shop homepage and go through various different things, or if you want to search for something specific, you can. If you're looking for something very specific and you don't know exactly whether we have it or indeed 20,000 of them for your company, there is also a telephone number that will get you directly through to our sales team, and an email address if you want to know anything there, including the FAQs for the shop as well. So that is the most direct way that you can support the Electromaker Show. However, we're also very, very pleased when people actually interact with the YouTube channel. Leaving comments is wonderful. We like to know what you think of the show and what you're working on. And of course, making sure that you are subscribed to this channel and clicking like on this video makes it more likely that other people will see the Electromaker Show in the future. Now, Adafruit are moving to a new location. They have historically been based in Manhattan, in New York, and they're moving to Brooklyn, in New York. And I understand that for an international audience, that might not seem like much of a distinction. Indeed, this show is filmed in an attic in Berlin, in Germany. But the thing that's exciting about this is that since 2005, Adafruit has been putting together the most wonderful boards and most wonderful learning resources, all overseen by Limor Fried, who you may know as Lady Ada. She started this company, still owns this company, and she is the backbone and driving force behind probably one of the most exciting manufacturers and educational forces in the hobby and industry microcontroller section. That sounds like a big thing to say, but really think, is there anyone else who's doing exactly what Adafruit does? And now in their new premises, which is in a place called Industry Park in Brooklyn, if I'm remembering that correctly, we're going to look in a moment at the video that they put out about it. This gives them a new kind of space. Their old manufacturing plant in Brooklyn was a wonderful place for working and coming up with stuff, and you've probably seen it, albeit in short bits of videos here and there. And of course they put on a lot of videos talking about new stuff, but that's usually with a green screen and just a bit of a desk. But those facilities were perfect for running an online business and having all of the online resources. But now they're moving into a place which will allow them to actually have in-person meetups and hackathons and anything that they want to do. They haven't announced any of that kind of stuff yet, but given the wonderful things that Adafruit have done over the time that they've been running, it seems highly likely that they will be. And it is genuinely quite an exciting thing, even for someone filming a show alone in an attic halfway across the world. So Adafruit have moved over to Industry City, which is a sprawling, amazing place. I think I called it Industry Village, by the way, but Industry City is the correct term for it. This huge place with a massive outdoor area with a bunch of cafes and restaurants, a huge amount of places for people to meet, and it is in this Industry City where their new offices are based. And this video, which is on the Adafruit channel, goes through them talking about the move and everything that has been happening, and they've been doing this alongside still putting out new boards the entire time. Just last week we were talking about the new RP2350 board that they've put out in the Feather form factor. And a little bit later in this video, which I will be linking in the description, they give you a look through the office that they now have, which I think, judging by, they've either made it look very much like it's a real camera running through a 3D render, but I don't think it is. I think this is the actual office. And it seems like a very nice office space. But this is the bit that grabbed me. There's seating for up to 120 in the room here itself. Whether that means they're going to have 120 people working in there with them, or whether this is going to be a space that they can use, is still something that they're going to be working out. But it is a very exciting time, and if you are someone who is in the New York State area, then this is something that might be worth keeping an eye on. Because if there's anyone who's going to be putting together wonderful hackathons and wonderful educational stuff, it's going to be Adafruit. So, talking about a company moving from one part of a city to another, if that is indeed the case, I'm going to have angry New Yorkers telling me that Brooklyn and Manhattan aren't in the same city. Perhaps, I don't know. My American geography is not excellent. But Adafruit aren't any normal company, and I think the fact that one of the premier online spaces for everybody to feel included in learning with no barrier to entry, moving into a space where they'll be able to open that out to physical gatherings, perhaps, is noteworthy and worth talking about. And it's very rare that I just get to do the enthusiastic thing in an attic and say that an entire company really inspires me. Adafruit have taught me a huge amount over the years, and more often than not, if I'm looking for how to work out how to do something, I will see if Adafruit have a tutorial on it first, because even the way that they put them together is really nicely done. Anyway, one of the reasons I wanted to jump to this video specifically, by the way, I'm almost letting it pass me by, is that in last week's show we forgot to mention that as well as the RP2350 Feather form factor board that Adafruit has, they've brought out a new Metro board. If you're not familiar, this is their Arduino Uno form factor board, but with a variety of different chips on it, and you get some of the nice things you get with an Arduino Uno, i.e. the form factor that works with Arduino shields, a barrel jack for powering it, but you get a few nice things as well, like this extra connector on the side here, a micro SD slot, and of course a stemmer QT port for solderlessly connecting a bunch of different modules. And so yeah, there's obviously a huge amount that you can do with these, and if you're interested in finding out more, I will be linking this video and the previous video we watched under this one as well. That was the podcast for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your continued support. I will be back next week with another podcast, and that one will probably be a classic Ian stomps around a field in Bavaria in Germany, because we'll be visiting family and I won't be up in the attic of dreams. So I will probably be talking to you from a forest next time with some nice bird sounds and things like that in the background. I very much look forward to doing so. Until then, I hope you're having a fun and a safe and a creative week, and I'll chat to you very soon.